Welcome. Today we're going to dive into something really personal. It's this question of how we can go deeper than our usual spiritual routines. To build a connection with the divine that's not just for Sundays or when we're in trouble, but something that's always on. It's a journey, for sure, and we're going to walk it together.
So, let me ask you this. Do you ever just feel like there's something missing? I mean, you pray, you believe, but there's still this quiet little whisper that says, is this it? Is there more? If that sounds even a little bit familiar, you are in exactly the right place. That feeling, that's not a sign of failure, it's the beginning of a much deeper adventure.
All right, so here's our roadmap for this little journey. First, we're going to figure out what we're even aiming for. What is this connection? Then, we'll look at why prayer, as amazing as it is, might not be the whole story. After that, we'll uncover the pieces that might be missing. And then, the fun part, finding your unique path. And finally, we'll explore what it actually looks and feels like to live with that full connection.
Okay, so first things first. Before we can find something, we got to know what we're looking for, right? So what does a full connection even mean? Let's get really clear on the goal.
Let's really look at these words, because they matter. Direct. That means it's just you and Source, no middleman. Continuous. This is a big one. It means it's not just a 5-minute-a-day thing. It's woven into your commute, your work, everything. And conscious. That means you know it's there. You're aware of it. That is what we're talking about.
You can kind of think about it like building a house. Prayer? That's you laying the foundation. It's where you start the conversation. Belief? Well, that's putting up the framework. You can see the shape of the house. Faith makes it strong. It puts on the roof and walls so it can withstand a storm. But full connection? That's when you move in. It becomes your home. It's about living inside that connection, not just visiting the construction site. So if prayer is so important, if it's the foundation, why isn't it the whole house? Well, to get to that full connection, we have to move past a spiritual monologue. Let's talk about that. The key thing to realize is that prayer by itself can be limiting. Just think about it for a second. Is prayer something that only happens for you in these specific carved-out moments? And be honest, does it sometimes feel like a one-way street where you're doing all the talking? When that happens, it's easy for our spiritual life to feel like this separate box we open and close instead of something that's part of our whole day.
And this right here, this is the big shift. We're trying to move from a monologue, where we're just speaking to the divine, over to a dialogue, a real back-and-forth conversation. It's not just about talking, it's about learning to listen, to receive. It's the difference between sending a text and just having an open phone line, always connected.
Okay, so if prayer and faith are just part of the picture, what are we missing? What are the other key ingredients we need to build that solid, unbreakable connection? Let's get into it. Here they are, the missing pieces of the puzzle. First up, receptive listening. That's the other half of that conversation we were just talking about. Then, embodied practice, which is a fancy way of saying you actually live what you believe. Community connection, because this journey is so much easier when you're not walking it alone. Self-knowledge, really understanding your own spiritual wiring. And finally, consistent practice, which is what turns this from an idea into a reality. And the amazing thing is, the toolkit we have to build these elements into our lives is huge. It's not just one thing. Yeah, prayer is on the list, but so is the quiet of meditation, the selflessness of service, the wisdom you get from study, the strength of community, and that incredible, grounding feeling you get from being out in nature. It's a whole spectrum of connection. And this leads us to what is maybe the most important part of this whole conversation. There is no one-size-fits-all formula for this. It's all about discovering and then honoring your own personal spiritual blueprint. Most of us tend to lean in one of these directions naturally. So which one feels most like you? Do you connect through your heart, through love and devotion, or through your mind with study and big questions? Maybe you connect through your hands with selfless action and service. Or perhaps it's through finding that deep inner stillness. Knowing which path feels like home helps you pick practices that are going to feel energizing, not like a chore. So how do we actually fit this into a life that's already busy? Well, here's a super simple 4-part daily rhythm anybody can try. Start your day with some intention, even just 15 minutes. Use those little moments between tasks, before you get out of the car or start a new email, to take 1 minute to center yourself. Sprinkle some sacred pauses throughout your day, to just stop and breathe, and then end the day with a little reflection and gratitude. Seriously, consistency here is so much more powerful than how long you do it for.
Okay, so what's the payoff? What happens when you start doing this? In our last section, let's look at the real, tangible signs that you're building and living from that place of full connection. These are the signposts along the way. You start to notice those meaningful coincidences, synchronicities, popping up all the time. You start to feel this deep, unshakable peace inside, even when the world outside is chaotic. Your intuition gets louder and clearer. And life, well, it just starts to flow more easily, with less resistance. These aren't just nice ideas. This is the actual lived experience of full connection.
And in the end, it all comes back to this profound, simple truth. This connection we're searching for, it's not out there somewhere. It's not something you have to earn or prove you're worthy of. It's already inside you, just waiting for you to tune in.
So, as we wrap this up, the real question isn't about becoming a spiritual master overnight. It's just about taking one small step. So, looking at everything we've talked about, what's one simple practice you can try this week to open up your end of that divine dialogue? Maybe it's a mindful pause, or 5 minutes of just listening, or one small act of service. What's it going to be for you?